Hey y'all, still reading from Dean Spade's book Mutual Aid, Building Solidarity During This Crisis and the Next. I'm on chapter 3, part 2, We Get More When We Demand More. The criminalization of mutual aid work has been ongoing throughout social movement history, precisely because mutual aid directly confronts unjust systems and offers alternatives. Groups doing frontline mutual aid work that is particularly risky today, such as those helping with access to abortion drugs or procedures illegal in the jurisdiction where they are working, providing clean needles and safe consumption spaces to drug users where that is illegal, supporting the well-being of people in the criminalized sex trades, and helping homeless people occupy vacant homes, have useful knowledge and experience for all of us about navigating safety risks. Studying those groups' experiences and methods for evading and/or confronting police, securing electronic communications, and sheltering the most vulnerable people from exposure can benefit all mutual aid groups as we prepare for our work to hopefully become threatening to the status quo. In the face of increased mobilization and resistance, as with the rebellion against racist police violence in the summer of 2020, or fearing another destabilizing disaster, governments and the corporations they represent will sometimes grant concessions, many of which look similar to what mutual aid projects provide. In moments of deep social and economic turmoil, such as during COVID-19, governments expand income support, usually in the form of welfare benefits, unemployment benefits, or a one-time stimulus check. But government aid can also take the form of legalizing squatted property, providing mobile clinics, offering meals at public schools, creating restorative justice programs, creating resources for people being released from prison, and more. Concessions like these, where the government provides something previously only offered by mutual aid groups, can be celebrated as limited victories by movements. Our organizing was so strong that they co-opted us. These concessions might also provide vital support to many more people than mutual aid groups can reach, as with the USDA's free breakfast program in schools, which fed more children than the Black Panther Party breakfast program that prompted its expansion. However, it is crucial to remember that these concessions are necessarily limited. First, they can be shrunk or taken back when the moment of instability passes. This has been the historical pattern for poor relief in the United States. It gets expanded during a crisis and then contracted and stigmatized as soon as the crisis is lessened, quickly making people once again desperate and exploitable by their employers. Second, while government provisions sometimes reach more people than local mutual aid efforts can, they usually exclude particularly vulnerable people, like people who are criminalized, working in underground economies, homeless, or undocumented. The welfare and income support programs in the United States, ranging from old age and disability benefits to support for families in poverty, are consistently designed to ensure that women, people of color, and indigenous people get left out or get less. For example, the New Deal, which emerged to quiet the anti-capitalist rebellions brought on by the Great Depression and stabilize the capitalist system, was designed so that women and domestic agricultural workers, disproportionately Black and Latinx, were excluded from the benefits created. By tying many benefits to work, the New Deal also perpetuated a status quo of grinding poverty for people with disabilities. Whenever we rely on a capitalist, imperialist system to provide vital necessities, we can guess that the provisions will be fragile and inadequate, and designed to transfer far more wealth towards the population those systems were designed to support: white people, rich people, straight people, and men. Often, the concessions were never delivered at all, only promised in an effort to quell resistance. One pattern that is clear in regard to concessions is that because the aim of elites is to concede as little as possible and maintain the status quo as much as possible, we will get more when we demand more and build bolder, bigger pressure. It took mass movements threatening capitalism's very existence, like those seen during the Great Depression and 1960s uprising against racism, just to get stigmatizing, ungenerous welfare benefits. Decades of uprising against police brutality yielded almost only surface police reforms, many of which expanded police budgets and numbers. Even unsatisfying concessions, in other words, only come with big, sustained, disruptive mobilizations. Nonprofit leaders and politicians frequently encourage pragmatism and peaceful incremental change, but the most radical imagination of what we want and the escalation of direct action to get it is what is truly pragmatic if we want to win real change. Concessions won in crises of sudden disaster and crises created by powerful social protest, will be as strong and lasting as the mobilizations that made them necessary. Elites and their nonprofit gatekeepers encourage us to make small, reasonable, or winnable demands, and they try to redirect our action to official channels that are non-disruptive, with narratives about peaceful protest and coming to the table. They encourage reforms premised on the assumption that the systems we seek to dismantle are fundamentally fair and fixable. We have to refuse to limit our visions to the concessions they want to give. What we want is a radically different world that eliminates the systems that put our lives under their control. If concessions are signs of our impact, at best providing some relief to some people, but ultimately stabilizing existing systems, what would winning look like? As we build mutual aid groups, what do we hope for, if not that the government, instead of us, will some days provide what we are providing? If our current systems are based on illegitimate authority and use coercion and violence to keep us tied to them, and if those systems primarily pursue the aim of concentrating wealth and decision-making power, what is the alternative? Next video is part 3 of this chapter.